Welcome back to New Amsterdam Radio, the podcast for creators. That is I, the man full of voice, being joined by the man himself. We've collaborated on shows. We've talked about the comedy game, the wrestling game, and so much more. Please welcome Captain John Weber. How's it going, sir?
Thank you so much for having me on New Amsterdam. Flobo, I have always admired your empire of creative outlets, and New Amsterdam has always been like that jewel in the crown, that flagship, and I'm so honored to be aboard it. Thank you for the invite.
Checks in the mail, but we were actually talking, we were shooting the breeze, but you said something I really was like, oh, I want people to hear this. Talk to me about immersive art.
I don't know if you want me to give this away, but I'm going to give this away. You were showing me. You and I have another collaboration coming up.
Yeah.
Commander's Log. This will be season 4 for you.
4 for the show, 2 for my show.
Right. Season 2 for Commander's Log, where you and I will watch and review and go over all the details and the Easter eggs of Star Trek Discovery, a fantastic show. Yeah. And I was so delighted. It was the beginning of my streaming career when you invited me to join you on Commander's Log. And and I love it. I love what you do. I love doing my version of it, my tributes many times, my ripoffs once in a while of what you do. I do steal, but I steal from the best.
Oh, thanks, man.
And you were showing me the new intro for our next season of Commander's Log, and I was blown away by it. And you were like, yeah, whatever, a little brushing a little dirt off your collar there. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Come on, you know how I do it, John.
Yeah.
You were like, yeah, it's good. And I was blown away by it because the music and the visual, it was very immersive for me. It blew me away. It was like, did you see, this is a very old movie. Mm-hmm. Did you see Close Encounters of the Third Kind in the theater? In the theater?
Before my time.
It starts with a bright light and a big, loud, what do you call it? Like symphonic chord. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing it with my dad and like looking over at him. He was holding his hands up in front of his eyes. It was so bright. And I was like, wow, if we saw a UFO, it would probably be just like this.
Right.
It was a great moment of immersive art. And when I was watching, and as I said, you got the 4K video and you use every one of the Ks. No K left behind.
It's like 1080, but thank you.
Oh, dude. I mean, it blows my visuals away. And I was digging it so much. And I said, and it occurred to me for the first time that the thing about immersive art is the person watching it and the person taking it in does a lot of the work. Mm. It is your response that is a big part of the art. And, speaking of my dad, my dad passed away a year and a few months ago. And, as lots of people know, that's something that you deal with a lot. You measure it every day. How am I feeling? How am I doing? What are my memories? How can I keep it positive? How can I keep it real? And there were so many great things my dad taught me. So many weren't, but so many were.
Mixed bag.
Mixed bag. Exactly. And, that's human beings for you. One of the things that he taught me at a very young age and then promptly forgot he taught me, by the way, because later on I referred to it when I was talking to him. He was like, what are you talking about? He said, the thing about art is it evokes a response.
Correct.
And lots of things evoke a response, but art is a thing that kind of exists mostly for you to look and take it in and get and feel some kind of way about it. And that's art. So professional wrestling, as you mentioned, because we're both from the world of professional wrestling on the indie level. and you worked with great people, and I worked with a lot of those same people, doing other things. And the thing about wrestling is, how many secrets can I give away about
All
professional
of
wrestling? Because I joined the world of professional wrestling. I'd already been a comedian and an actor and a host of a TV show. And I was working on a TV show, and they said, hey, why don't you try to do a story about wrestling? And I did, and I fell in love with it, and I stayed with it. And I became a wrestler.
I did wrestling first and then everything afterwards.
I mean, as my wrestling career was going up as a wrestler and a manager and even a coach and a teacher and eventually a booker, as that career was going up, my acting career was taking a nosedive. A lot fewer phone calls for that. But one of the things that my mentor and my very first wrestling teacher taught me, he was Dynamite D, the 80s wrestler. Though we remember him as the best wrestler there is. Everybody's got their little phrase. It was Dynamite D's, the best wrestler there is. And Dynamite D said, you're standing in a wrestling ring. You're getting ready to wrestle. You're looking across the ring. There's another person over there. That person is wearing pads. That person has trained. That person is wearing tights. That person's getting ready to beat the snot out of you, and you're getting ready to beat the snot out of them. And there's a referee, and maybe there's managers in the corner, maybe valets. Every one of those people combined versus the audience.
Right.
That's a real wrestling match. Everyone on, like a lot of the refs that you watch on TV have an earpiece. Everyone on the other end of that earpiece, everyone in the production booth for the TV show, every one of those people versus the audience. Now that's wrestling. Yeah. We say versus. But in terms of art, it's all us trying to reach across to the viewer or the listener. And it's one of the most beautiful parts of art. There was a wrestler. I swear I'll wind up because this was supposed to be like the first thing I was going to say, and it's like 10 minutes now. Do you remember the wrestler Chris Kanyon?
Yeah, who better than Kanyon?
and Kanyon was one of the most powerful, creative people in the game, and because of the time, it was so homophobic.
Right.
And he hated being gay. He came up at a time when you had to hide that. You had to, there was so much masculinity in wrestling that he couldn't just be himself. And he was just a real guy who, was gay. He used to do this thing in his intro. Now, you remember the WWE version, Who Better? Who better than Kanyon? Yeah. It sounds great.
Champagne Chris Kanyon. Yeah. Positively Kanyon.
Oh, my God. All the Canyons. Champagne Chris Kanyon back at WCW. But the very first one I saw was, I'm going to say it was 1998. And he was all by himself. He wasn't hanging out with other, he wasn't like DDP's, side guy. You're right. Bang. Chris Kanyon would come out and he'd go, okay, you people are not very smart, so I'm going to have to explain it to you. I'm going to ask who's better than Kanyon. And then you say nobody. You got it? Who's better than Kanyon? And you say nobody. You do not say everybody.
Right.
Who's better than Kanyon? And of course, what do they do? Everybody! And then he gets mad. Then he throws like a little, stomps his feet and he gets mad. And he gives the microphone back to somebody and he doesn't want to talk to the audience anymore. And now the match is going to get started. That was one of the smartest pieces of audience participation I have ever seen. I've done improv. I've done stand-up. I've hosted shows. I've emceed. I have never seen audience participation that perfect in my life. That was one of the things that made me get into wrestling. It's like,
Oh, wow.
this is on a whole different level here. Yeah, Chris Kanyon was one of my biggest inspirations in the business. And it's that level of immersive, the behavior and response. I also have a friend, I don't know if you know the wrestler Sexy Chino.
Yeah, the ageless and timeless Sexy Chino here in Southern California.
Sexy Chino, one of the greatest performers. I love Sexy Chino. He and I took class together. His first day in wrestling class was my first day.
Wow.
Chino actually saw him outside of a WCW event, and he's telling me the story, and he goes, yeah, I go up to Kanyon, and I see Kanyon, and he thinks no one can recognize him. And I go, who's better than Kanyon? And he turns around, points at me, and goes, you are.
Oh, yeah. That's really cool.
Clutching my heart. Clutching my heart when I tell that story.
Yeah.
So, yeah, immersive art, man. It's it's something that people, you know, we also say in wrestling that it is a sport of emotion. You want people to be emotionally involved. All the coverage that I've seen you do of wrestling is perfect because you care.
Oh,
You're not too cool for this school. Yeah. You chose to be here. You care. That's yet another thing I appreciate about you.
Well, I appreciate a bunch about you, man. I heard the word immersive art. I was like, wow, that's deep. And I'm glad we started it as awkward as I did start the show because I learned a lot. You know, it's an odd thing because you do so much things, and a lot of our guests do that. And I know there's sometimes it feels like, oh, I'm just one person. It's just a cross section of what I do. Sometimes it feels like you're spinning different plates. You're like, who am I? Yes. As someone who consider you're still a working actor, you just had a show wrap up this year. Like, what has been your mix? When someone says, what do you do? How do you explain what you do?
You know, I wanted to get into comedy ever since I was a little kid. When did it first get you, the comedy bug?
Actually trying it out, or me thinking that I have a chance of doing it?
Well, that's a good question. That's a really good distinction.
I was 29 when I first started trying it out, but for me, it was Leno. And I think a lot of people who are late night talk show fans tend to be working class or lower class because, like in my case, it was cool that one, your parents let you stay up late to watch it, but since my parents worked blue collar jobs, to see them laugh was so rare that you kind of equated that with love, right? You're like, oh man, Leno made my dad laugh in its headlines. I want to do that for other dads.
Right. No, I was the same way. My dad was a big joker. And he was like one of the most charming people in the world too. And I would definitely take these things in, want to kind of learn and kind of like use these as tools. You know, you see that exchange back and forth. You know, your dad who works so hard, who doesn't have a ton of time to stop and laugh at things. Mm-hmm. You know, he takes life seriously. He's got a good work ethic, and then you see what works for him, and you're kind of learning the tools here. Kind of like, these are tools. I can use these. A person can use them. Maybe I can too. True. I always wanted to be a comic. And it was like because of all the reasons. I like making people laugh. Not the handsomest guy in the world, so
go on.
Might as well have a sense of humor. It makes life easier when you try to bring out a sense of humor, not only out of you but out of everything and everybody. You're like me, where you're a really great laugher as well as a joker. You know, you understand all the bases of this particular, you know, baseball diamond of comedy. So yeah, what got me into this whole thing, you know, my talents always kind of lay there. I could always sing. I wasn't too nervous getting in front of people. I liked acting. I never thought I was that great at it. But then I would watch comedians act.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd have to say it's like Robin Williams, Steve Martin, and then I could go to Martin Short because they're still working together.
Right.
John Candy.
Okay.
Bill Murray. These are all heroes to me. And they were guys who acted. They weren't as good actors as they were comedians, maybe. But I also kind of liked that they sort of came up short in certain areas. There were things they always needed to work on to be better. I always admired that.
Yeah. Being able to look at yourself and evaluate, or
or if you're doing the other thing I do and you're saying like, oh, you're not very good. You know what? You failed here and you failed there. Oh, you know what? On the pyramid of who's great, you're really near the bottom. Like when you start beating up on yourself like that.
Why is it a pyramid? I didn't know there was a. Okay, that's cool. I never thought of it that way.
Why is it a pyramid? That's a very good question. maybe it's my old nutritional pyramid.
Right.
Well,
back in my day, 4 groups. Now there's a pyramid.
I'm clearly never going to eat right, so I might as well take that pyramid and make it my career.
Right. That's a ticket.
and it's been a really, like, I'm an older dude. So, here I am in my late 50s. And, when I kind of look at all of the things that I put together for my career, it's like, oh, I don't do like straight drama. I don't do this. I don't do that. I don't do this. I don't do that. And then after you do it for a few years, after you're, working for a few years, I was in a lot of commercials. Mm-hmm. That was probably where I did most of my work, looking back on it. Now I was in commercials and then like show hosting. Those are never things I aimed to do. That was never my goal. That was always just the way to make the living.
Right.
And then I would try things like, I tried stand-up. That's when you and I met. I was trying stand-up, but still hadn't quite gotten my work ethic and my writing and all of that together. That makes a great stand-up that you, among many other stand-ups, are really great.
I used to do it. I'm washed up, bro. I don't. The pandemic came and I just don't. Oh, it's a whole thing.
I know people who are heavily into it, like heavy into it, doing stand-up comedy, and they are miserable.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy Dave, he works with the Comedy Cellar, and he does all kinds of things for the Cellar. The best work he does is podcasting and interviews. Dave Juska, a very funny guy, has got a podcast called The Nightfly. There you go, Jessica. I'll give you your plug.
Plug.
And he is a very funny guy, but if you sit down and talk comedy with him, oh my gosh, there's so much about comedy, comedians especially, where he has that like snobby, like, Richard Jenny was no good. Sitting there going,
the Star of Platypus Man was no good? He put UP on his back, good sir. What are you talking about?
I was sitting there. Now, I worked with Jenny because I hosted a show that Jenny was a guest on like 3 or 4 times. He was a great guest. I have no idea what Dave's talking about. I talk to him more and more. I find out personally they didn't like each other. Personally, they hated each other, honestly, to be completely honest.
Makes sense.
And, oh my gosh, does that sound unusual for stand-up comedy? No.
People hate each other? No, not at all. Not at all, man.
There's so much hate and resentment in that art form. And it's, hell, I'd even say that's a combat art form.
People always, exactly. People say, like, I don't see the point why there's so much drama. It's like, if you ever seen Honey Boo Boo, like, it's a beauty pageant. It's a comedic pageant. And sometimes you could be in direct competition with money on the line and and money on the line. Of course, people act that way. Some don't. I try not to, but, it happens.
The best way to approach it, and it's funny because I've always my female friends, or rather, honestly, I have non-binary friends in comedy too. So let me say, my non-male friends will be much more relaxed on the level of No one else can be me. I'm the only me. So I'm not in direct competition with anyone else. But the men are all like, that guy is below me. He's like 7 notches below me on the ladder. They use a ladder. They don't use a pyramid, I'm assuming.
No pyramids. He's 7 slopes below me. No, I'm totally with you. Like, I hate to sound like I've reached that place yet, because I do get that kind of twins here and there. But I think comedy got a lot more fun for me in my 3rd or 4th year, when I was like, you know what? If they don't laugh at me, it's because I'm sucking, not because of this person or that person. But you go in there like central casting, especially when there's like theme nights, or East Coast night, Black night, or whatever night. You go there and you're like, oh, they're just multiple versions of me. That's not cool. Right. I want to be top tier me. Like, of all the me's out there, I want to be the best me possible.
Absolutely. And the the thing that always helped me, and this helped me a lot in wrestling too, honestly, was, okay, so I'm 6'4". In our world of indie wrestling, non-television usually wrestling, that is very tall. That's like, of all the wrestlers I'm probably one of the tallest guys probably like 10%. And guys in wrestling hated me because I'm so big. I'm going to beat the tar out of them, and anything they do to me is not going to work as well because I'm so big. And if there's no Vince McMahon to go, you're going to wrestle Weber, you wrestle him right now. If there's no one to force it, then these guys are like, oh, why do I have to wrestle John? Can someone else wrestle him? Look, let me wrestle the guy that I've known since I was 12 years old. We wrestle great together. Like, nobody really wants to like go out and do it for real. And I just feel like I'm not going to get support from those guys.
Right.
So where am I going to get my support? It's from the audience. How does the audience respond? And if I'm a good guy, they'll be cheering for me. And if I'm a bad guy, at different points in my career, I was a bad guy, they'll be booing me. But it's all good. Yeah. I mean, you love the booing as much as the cheering. Honestly, you love the booing a little more.
Yeah, you'll sell less merch, but it does feel good to get the reactions.
That's so true. I mean, when you get right down to it, John Cena has sold more T-shirts than probably anybody. I think we can even include Stone Cold at this point. He's sold more T-shirts. He's always been a good guy. But
he's currently number 2 overall for those who are into the thing.
No kidding. Who's number 1?
You're not going to believe this, but ironically, Roman Reigns is number 1. And he's a heel. He's a bad guy. He
is a bad guy. That is true. He's been He's been a bad guy for a large part of his career. I don't know about the majority of his career, but certainly,
I think so.
Yeah, he's gone back and forth. Oh man, Roman Reigns beats John Cena on
I think it's a design because Roman Reigns has black shirts or white shirts with text, and those are always classic. He should wear them anywhere. But John Cena gave you every color, maybe at once sometimes.
Oh, that's so true. That's so true. When The Rock accused him of being the Fruity Pebbles wrestler, because he was always using these bright greens and bright reds and bright yellows.
I got him.
And who was wearing his stuff? It was almost always kids.
Yeah.
It was almost always children. So, what you want in the world, you're right. It's the T-shirt. I used to always call them, because I started wrestling in the year 2000. And I always called them I always called them the black T-shirt crowd.
Yeah.
Because especially out here in Southern California, we would get our long-haired dudes, and they'd be like long-haired white dudes, long-haired Mexican dudes, long-haired Filipino dudes, like every race, except for the black guys. The black guys usually would keep it nice and clean.
Yeah, exactly, man. I gotta go somewhere else after this.
I mean, there's a little bit, there's a variety of hair there, but yeah, a lot of times they're not doing the shaggy hair. But all the other guys rocking the shaggy hair, they want to wear heavy metal T-shirts, and they want to look badass. And then when they go to buy a wrestling T-shirt, they want it to look like a heavy metal T-shirt. So black, usually with like one symbol, some text, very simple. Guys like that. That works. Good old Roman Reigns. Honestly, as I like to call him to make people mad sometimes, The Rock's handsomer cousin.
Ooh.
He is, though. He's a really handsome guy.
I mean, I think it's different flavors of handsome. You know, it's like vanilla versus French vanilla. Like one is different, but it's similar enough. You know what I'm saying? Welcome back to Handsome Man Chat. It was not the whole point of the show.
Hey, man, we got to touch all the demographics here.
Yeah, I know, right? Get this all So we're talking about this also. You are a content creator too, Starbase 80. You have a new project on the horizon. Talk to me about the shift from going digital and what's on the docket. What's on the slate?
I have I've always been a big planner of how I wanted to do things, and you know what they say. That's the
Never have a
easiest
plan.
way. Never have a plan. That's the easiest way to make God laugh at you.
Yeah.
Never have a plan. So what I've tried to do now is just follow my nose. And look at that nose. Look
Yeah, it is. For those in the visual version, he is showing us his nose on the Handsome Man edition of New Amsterdam Radio.
I've got a nose, ladies and gentlemen, and I gotta like I'm Toucan Sam. I gotta follow this thing.
It's not. No, he was actually a toucan. Like he had a beak.
Mine's only the one color, but still.
Wow.
You know, when we were doing Commander's Log, I was just looking at all of the tools and all the production that you were doing, and I was thinking, man, this looks really good, and I would watch this if I didn't know these guys. I would totally watch this show. And so I came up with Starbase 80, which was I like to say the I got to get that domain. I still have
another name for the show, and it was like, oh wait, there's another.
Oh my God, that's so true. No. And you were the one who turned me on to it, and I'm like, I can't believe I didn't search out this other name. I love the show Deep Space Nine. Actually, both of us love it.
Yeah, I can love it. I watched it after you, obviously, but
yeah, well, I mean, you know, I'm an old guy. I was there for all the shows. The nice thing about my old name, Deep Space Dive, was I felt like Deep Dive was kind of like a cliche of the moment, maybe not a great phrase to base the title of the show on. Yeah. But I was forging ahead with it, and then one day you send me the link in an email, and you're like, I think you might want to check this out. And there had already been 2 episodes of Deep Space Dive, and it was a really great host, and she was doing a great job. So clearly I do not want to use the same name that she's using. And so, so we ended up with Starbase 80 based on a joke from Lower Decks, a show that I started out not liking, and Flobo kept saying, you got to give it another chance. Give it another chance. And I did. And oh my gosh, I watched like 2 episodes, walked away, came back, watched those same episodes again, and then the other episodes following. It is a whole different experience the second time around. I'm so glad you talked me into that.
Yeah, I'm still behind on the second season, but yeah, it's cool because as someone, for those of you who don't know, I explain this all the time around our show, but I got into Star Trek literally 3 years ago next month. And the first show I got into was Discovery. So everything's kind of backwards for me, but it's cool when you watch a show with references, but the show still stands on its own, even with references for people like myself who are new.
Right. Right. Yeah. And someone, okay, now granted, when Star Trek happened, when it first aired, I was like 3 years old. So I caught it when it first went to syndication. But that's how far back I go. But I am always one of those people that'll watch something and go, I wonder what it's like if you're just starting it now.
Oh, yeah.
So I find your perspective so valuable, so unique.
Or frustrating, depending on the episode.
Never.
Never. What? I love Tuvix. No, I hate Tuvix.
No, because it also gives me that moment of seeing it from the non-historical perspective. Because a lot of times, like when we were watching, I can say this because a lot of my friends expressed this when they first started watching Star Trek The Next Generation. They would say, well, this is not a great show. It's not that it's a bad Star Trek. It's just not a great show for this reason or that reason or this reason. And looking back on it now, it is a great show. They were just disappointed.
Yeah.
And I, again, this actually ties into the very first thing that we were talking about is what do your emotions shape the experience like? Yeah. How do you feel a certain way about what you're watching and what is that? Now, don't get me wrong. If people are disappointed in a show, it does affect the show.
Absolutely.
Next Generation was, from everything they tell us, it was going to be canceled. It was not gathering enthusiasm as it was going. And then who saved it? Who saved it, Flopo?
You or that clip show with Commander Riker?
Whoopi Goldberg.
Oh, yeah.
Whoopi Goldberg. The EGOT herself.
Yeah.
Loved the show, wanted to be on the show. She came out. It got them a lot of positive attention. Whoops, hit my mic. And that was a great thing to happen for Star Trek. And I remember at the time going, oh, man, they don't need Whoopi on this show. Why is Whoopi on this show?
Why do you sound like a 90s like New York comic? I don't need Whoopi. That's terrible.
Oh my God!
Was it that vehement? Were you that strong?
I was in New York doing comedy at the time. I wonder if I had like my suit jacket and my tie and my sneakers, my jeans and sneakers. Why is Whoopi on this show? Who knows? Who knows? But, you know what really did it for me? Really made me fall in love with Whoopi was it wasn't even Whoopi. Do you remember, I think it's called Rascals. It's the episode where they're turned into children.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah.
The kid Whoopi killed me. She was so great.
Yeah, that's not even Whoopi, but it counts.
Lil Guinan just made it work for me. Well, and she was great in Generations. They show you the first time she meets, I believe they show you the first time she meets Picard in the movie Generations, Star Trek Generations, and that was sweet too. So, the great thing about Star Trek, and maybe you can extend this into other things too, but the great thing about Star Trek is the body of work just becomes this universe. And then, if there's things you don't like them. That's okay. Yeah. That's all right. Like what you like. But there are thousands of things that you haven't seen yet, or maybe you haven't noticed yet. And there's always more. And this is why I love Discovery, because Discovery provides so much more.
I agree. But what about yourself? I mean, you branched out. There's a whole empire of content you're starring in, you're working on. Like, how do you approach that with your fans? Of which there must be many. Because every time you launch a show, people are in the chat hanging out.
I am a very lucky guy in that as I've gone through the years, I've made a lot of friends in a lot of different worlds. And so I was super, super lucky as a stand-up. When I was doing it in around 2008, 2009, if I put out an announcement I was going to do a show, 30 people would show up. Mm-hmm. And that's not enough to make a show necessarily, but if all the other comics were expected to bring people and I brought 30, I can't tell you how many bringer shows I did where I was the closing act.
Oh, yeah. And we all burned our friends out that way. It's a rite of passage, man.
I remember this one show, the guy running it was a real jerk. And I said, hey man, when am I going to go up? And he's like, oh, I was looking for you before, but I didn't find you. And I'm like, well, I'm 6'4", 270 pounds. And I was right over at that table. And he was like, well, I just couldn't find you, bro. So I can't put you on tonight. And I was like, oh, well, okay. You see that giant table of 30 people over there? I'm going to go over them there and tell them I'm not doing the show tonight. We're going to leave. And he was like, whoa, on now. Let's not get crazy.
So,
like, I was going to walk his whole audience.
Just for context, so what the bringer shows are basically, they want you to be on stage, but you got to bring a certain amount of people. I think every comic does that. And seriously, at the point at my nadir, I would bring one person or two, and some shows have like 5 people limits. So John brought 30. He brought the entire house. And this guy's like, I didn't see you. Forget about it.
I'm super lucky that way. I'm normally not a my way or the highway guy, but that was going to be very disappointing telling all those friends that they weren't going to let me on the show because for some reason I ticked off the guy booking it. Basically I've completely lost everything. I don't know where I was going. You were trying to set me up for something, and I should just get to. You were setting me up for.
You have so much things going on. Your empire is there. Everyone comes to show up. You have a community. But you're like, not me. Oh, forget it. There goes my Emmy.
No, it's true. No, you're right. It is true. I have a show coming up, and it was strictly because I got in a mood. My sister put up a lot of Halloween decorations around the house, and here at our little COVID villa where we hide away from the rest of the world.
I'm not sure if that's pleasant or unpleasant.
COVID it's villa? Very pleasant. It's very pleasant. Mostly because it's a nice property and a very big house we all live in. But yeah, she put up the Halloween decorations, so I get in the Halloween mood quite a bit. And I was like, I kind of had this idea. I was thinking about doing it. I'm going to do it. And so I'm going to debut this is a weird show. It's called Mr. Weber's Web O Mystery.
I love it.
It is a palindrome. It is it is a show in which I live out one of my dreams, one of my bizarre dreams. And as you know, stand-up comedian, stage actor, professional wrestler. I have some pretty bizarre dreams.
Yeah.
One of my dreams was I always loved, I don't remember if you ever grew up with anyone doing this, but it used to be in a TV market. I grew up outside of Boston. In a TV market, there would be a horror movie show, usually on the weekend, and there would be a host. And probably one of the best examples I could give you is Elvira.
Right.
Elvira, Sven Gulli. I'm trying to remember who our guy was. He was really creepy. In every respect. And so these horror hosts would basically talk in between the commercials. They'd talk and then show you a bit of the movie, and then they'd break for commercial, and then the host would talk to you a little bit again. And so this whole thing of being a horror host, it's one of those things I never thought I'd have a chance to do unless I could think of a way to do it. And now I thought of a way to do it. So if you join me in the stream, we will be listening to old-time radio shows that are horror and mystery.
Oh, okay,
and we'll do that live, you and me. Yeah.
We'll do it live.
And it should be a good podcast as well, just like this show, just like New Amsterdam Radio.
Thanks for the plug. But you're already here, though. I don't know. Okay, so that's a good thing. So people have an idea for a new show. I love the idea. Is there any kind of expectation? Is it like a metric you use, or it's kind of like just feel it out, man? Are you zen about it? What's the
I'm this will be my first time putting a show live on YouTube. I've never done that before. Mm-hmm. I've only done Facebook in the past. So I'm going to do what you do, Flobo. Once again, you're executive producer on my shows, whether you know it or not.
What?
I'm going to be available. The link will be up on Twitch. You'll be able to get to us through YouTube. You'll be able to get to us, hopefully, through Twitch. I got to figure out exactly how I'm going to get on Twitch. And Facebook, of course. I still have to cross some T's and dot some I's, but I think by this weekend we should be able to go. And my aim for Halloween is, if you join me on Halloween, we're going to listen to War of the Worlds together.
Dang. Classic
the original
one.
Yes,
Orson Welles.
Yes, Orson Welles, Mercury Theater, 1937 if I remember correctly, but it might be 39. I think it's 37 though. It is an hour-long cast, so we'll be doing probably a 90-minute show there. But I'll have some little shows too, just to give you a little hors d'oeuvres, little desserts afterwards. You know, we'll mix it up a little. But one of the main events will be War of the Worlds, the radio show.
Yeah. And I think by the time this comes out, either it'll be right before it releases or it'll be available on demand afterwards. So make sure you check that out. So that's how it is, man. I like the fact you keep doing new stuff, keep doing great stuff. And you have any plans for 2022? The world's opening back up, more content play, traveling, wrestling?
That's something people ask me about wrestling all the time. I am legit almost 60 years old. I have gout.
So is Sting.
Yeah, but he's Sting. He's been basically eating like lark's tongues and like fairy sweat his whole life. These guys who have these like beautiful lives.
Fairy sweat at market price. What a baller.
It's always amazing to me how, like, if you're successful and very, very talented, life is completely different for you from people who are not quite so successful, working hard at it, and also very, very talented. Those are all my friends.
Work for a living. I gotcha.
Yep.
One more match. Let's do it.
To answer your question, I got an invitation to direct a stage play. I've never done that before.
Nice.
And I am probably I actually got an invitation to do a one-man show.
The full night? Oh, an hour? How does it look like? Like a comedy show or just a memoir, like life, slice of life?
One of the things I was going to do, I'd always thought about doing it, was you've seen this over and over in professional wrestling, Flobo, where they'll bring in a professional wrestler and he's going to wrestle that night, but he does a seminar.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Gotta get those gimmicks. Yep.
Yeah. And basically what they do is they book him and they go, well, look, I can pay you X amount of dollars, but I can also set up a seminar for you so you can charge people to come and listen to you speak and do a little demonstration of the things that you're talking about and all of that. Usually there's a wrestling ring. He has some wrestlers come into the ring. So whoever's running the seminar usually says, hey, let's watch this, let's watch that. And then I'll tell you how it could have been better. Or I'll tell you, the psychology behind what we're doing. So anyway, wrestling seminars are very much a thing, and I'm going to do Stepdaddy Roscoe's wrestling seminar. That's my one-man show. That will debut in 2022.
Oh, so your one-man show is basically a parody of that.
Exactly that.
I thought you were actually doing the seminar again. I was like, what are you teaching these people? These poor helpless trainees are have the worst advice for an hour. But okay, I get it. It's a one-man show. Got it.
My wrestling persona, Stepdaddy. Why are you called the Stepdaddy? 'Cause I'm your daddy now. Woo!
It's like ODB from Wu-Tang Clan. Why ODB? There's no fault in my...
Any comparison between me and ODB makes my day. That just makes my day.
Hey, doo-doo. Maybe I got tomorrow.
Stepdaddy Roscoe has always, you've booked me on a comedy show and I performed as Stepdaddy Roscoe. I don't know if you remember.
You did. Was that the one we did? Because, okay, so for those who don't know, there's a time I used to produce comedy shows where I thought that was the best way to get exposure. It's not. And I think I booked you twice. And the first time you were yourself. And then we had this thing called, because there's three co-producers, we had like this like boxing night where we drafted former guest comics, and whoever got the most points, that team won. I think I drafted you on my team, and
yes,
you came in and was a whirlwind, man. It was a sight to behold.
I loved that crowd too. Oh my God, you guys brought in the best crowd. They were,
man.
They were dying. They were crying. And I wasn't, because I didn't write it really very well. I was not as good as I should have been. And they were such a good audience for me. So, this all happened because we were, this play I just did, we were breaking down, as you do. You do a play, and then a lot of times your very last performance, you go, you take off the makeup, you take off the costumes, and then you put on your work boots and you come down and you're going to break down your set and you're going to move away all the props. And yeah, usually the same night. Very much in local theater, it's the same night because someone else needs that stage right away.
Oh, wow.
So, we're doing that. And there's this guy, Bill, that I'd never met before. And at one point, he said something like, "Oh, you're going to give a power bomb to that chair, huh?" And I'm like, "You know about the power bomb?" Because he didn't know I was a wrestler. And he's like, "What?" "Yeah, power bomb from wrestling." And I'm like, "Bro, let's talk power bombs. Who's got your favorite power bomb?"
Why'd you say it so creepy? Hey, you like power bombs? Come out to this dark corner of the room. I got the good stuff. What?
And I said, "You've never given anyone a power bomb, right?" And the guy's like, "No." And I'm like, because one of the things about the power bomb. All right, so you know the power bomb, Flobo.
Yes, I'm afraid
Power
to say
bomb.
yes.
You kick the guy in the gut. He bends over. You pull him into you. You put his head between your legs.
Right.
Now he's facing down, so you're teabagging his neck. Grab him around the waist, and now you've got to pick him up. But you have to make a decision of what kind of power bomb you're going to give. Right. Are you going to give him the side saddle power bomb, which means you flip his body up so his butt is basically on your shoulder? Or are you going to flip him up so now he is, it's like you're piggybacking him, but he's backwards.
Yeah.
You've got a leg over one shoulder and his other leg over your other shoulder, and his stuff is right in your face.
Ugh.
You lift him up high. Maybe you're the Undertaker. You're going to give him the last ride.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you're on the top turnbuckle. You're Mike Awesome. You're going to give him an awesome bomb.
Awesome bomb.
Totally up to you. Totally up to you what you do right now. Once you get the guy up there, you then just deliver him down. Most people think you're slamming him as hard as you can. And I have seen guys do that. But a lot of times it's just easier if you just let gravity do the job for you.
Right.
And you just keep him flat the whole way down. Again, I'm giving away some wrestling secrets here, but you always want a flat landing. Right. That's how he'll be safest. That's how he'll be able to go home to his wife and kids. And that's the power bomb. You bomb that guy down there. You bomb him. And I'm telling this to Bill, and Bill goes, "You know I'm the artistic director of this theater, right?"
Okay.
I said, no, I just knew your name was Bill. And he said, "I would pay good money to hear you talk about wrestling." And I said, "You got any room in the schedule in 2022? He said, "Yes." I said, "Okay, then we'll do this show. I've been thinking about this show for years. Let's do it."
And so you're going to write this one-man show and perform it in the guise that I'm going to go to see a seminar. So basically, are you giving me the bad advice? I'm going to walk out there powerbombing grandmas or something? Like, what? I learned this in a stage play. It's art.
What it's going to be is it's going to be this. I'm going to treat the audience like they're all professional wrestlers. And this audience, trust me, you're absolutely right, is mostly grandmas.
Nice.
It's like 30 to 70% grandmas, depending on the night. So, yeah, there will be grandmas like chopping me. I don't know if I'm going to let a grandma hit me in the head with a chair. I don't know. I don't think so.
You want that, Tony, or what? It's art.
I'm sure. It will be whatever it will be. At this point, I know what a seminar is like, and I know what Stepdaddy is like, and I know what a stage show on this in this theater is like. So we're going to put the three of them together this year and see if it works.
Well,
of course, my hope is I get to do it in multiple places, but we'll start it.
Yeah, I can't wait that goes on the road with Avenue Q. John Weber, thanks for being on the show, New Amsterdam Radio, man, the podcast for creatives. You're out there doing it. You're killing it. If somebody want to interact with you or stalk you online, how do they go about doing that?
Find me at Hello John Weber on Twitter, and I'm also I'm also the host of Starbase 80. You can find that also on Twitter and on Facebook. And this year we'll be adding Mr. Weber's Web O Mystery. So look for that as well, please.